fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
I don't know what happened on there. I just plucked her in first, gave some gentle. Fuck yeah.
You are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a car that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
We go green for 40 minutes of racing around Monza.
Brilliant, look at defense by Ethan Grigault, just getting so punchy.
And a brilliant getaway already from Josh Rogers.
Two pro drivers going at it here between Dylan O'Keefe and Nick Foster.
Stanaway's demoted to third. Webster wins week 9 here at Sebring through the final corner. That's a huge slide for Cooper Murray. He's just trying to barge their way through, and that's whoa, that's a merry-go-round for Nick Burkett. Campbell, Paolo Gaon, and Ferraris behind. Glenn Wood actually was flipped into the barriers. One of the most exciting pirouettes I've seen in quite some time. That's Van Gisbergen, and his day is done. Tell you what, if Calvin wins this race, I wouldn't be surprised. He's all four wheels up the racetrack. Wow, but he just saves it on the apex.
Contact almost made, side by side through the elevation change, and Scotty McLaughlin had the move done, but he got over the crest. And
What a send!
Dylan O'Keefe sends it up the inside, can't do anything with it.
Shane Van Gisbergen already on the attack.
It begins and sending has begun.
And it's going to be a drag race to the line. Tuesday night is rapidly becoming a night to lick the stamp. Send it.
Oh, I forgot I was helping commentate here. I was just sitting back in my jocks and
Hi everyone, I'm Lockie Mansell. Welcome to SimSpeed TV for Week 8, Season 2 of the Just Send It iRacing series, and this week, the mountain is calling. It is, of course, race week for the 2020 edition of the Liquimoli Bathurst 12 Hour, but here on Just Send It, we present the Bathurst 40 Minutes. The car is one you'll be seeing in action in the 12 Hour, though. It is the Mercedes AMG GT3. Joining me in commentary tonight, he keeps saying that he's retired, but he keeps being dragged back out into action. It's a very good evening to Jay Kennedy. Jay, Bathurst 12-hour race week, there was really no other option, was there, for Just Send It tonight than to have GT cars racing around Mount Panorama?
100%. It was predicted from basically last season of Just Send It that this week would have to be a GT car at Bathurst, and you're right about me saying I'm retired. I think I've had more comebacks than Johnny Farnham the way I'm going at the moment. But yeah, looking forward to this qualifying that has already been run. Wowee, that was close and intense, but no surprise to see who's going to start from pole. Fingers crossed we might see a little bit of a surprise and throw in a random reverse grid. That'd make it quite interesting, but Josh Rogers way too quick for everyone.
And he was, of course, the race winner last week in the Radical SR8 at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit as well. But be interesting to see what happens on the mountain, because we know that the mountain always throws up surprises. It doesn't matter what sort of cars, what sort of races, whether they're in real life or they're in the virtual world, the mountain needs to be treated with respect. Once again, race format for tonight, we will have a 40-minute race with pit stops to each car in the field and a safety car with which the power of deployment lies with my esteemed co-commentator, Jay. So when he decides that it's time to bring out the safety car, that's when you will see it appearing on the racetrack.
I think we might change that this week. I think you should have the power this week. You tell me when we throw it and I'll push the magic button. How's that sound? Maybe we might put it in. We might put it in the hands of our viewers, actually. So if we get, say, 10 people all within 30 seconds on our Facebook stream saying, let's throw the safety car, we'll do it. So throughout the race. Anytime after the 25 minutes to go mark, if you think that the race could do with a safety car, you let us know in the chat. We'll keep an eye on it, and we might be able to weave some magic. How's that for viewer interaction?
Imagine if they had that in real life racing.
Oh my goodness. Already getting told to throw it now. And we are getting pictures through in just a minute. We're just waiting for the sessions to load up. One of the biggest fields ever in Just Centered history. Over 120 drivers have registered to try and make the field tonight. Some really, really big names in racing, sim racing and real world racing. Not as many as we would have loved in regards to who we're seeing out on track. Of course, a few drivers still coming back from Daytona, but it's still a pretty stacked field with some really, really good names out there on track. So looking forward to seeing how it plays out. But Scott McLaughlin up towards the pointy end. He's going to give a few of these guys a bit of a run for their money. And also Justin Rougier up there as well with Josh Anderson as well. Three really, really good quality real world drivers mixing it up with their sim racing boys. Of course, Josh Anderson, no stranger to the pointy end of the field as well. Of course, podium getter 2 out of the last 3 races in the most competitive series on iRacing at the moment, the Porsche iRacing Cup. So some big names at the pointy end. It's going to be very, very interesting to watch.
And Josh Anderson, of course, a good opportunity for him to get some laps around the mountain, because this weekend he will be competing not in the Bathurst 12-hour itself, but in the Aussie Racing Car Support races. And Bathurst, it's one of those tracks where any laps that you can do, whether it be in real life or in the virtual world, are incredibly valuable, just because of how complex a circuit it is and how unforgiving it is as well. So pictures starting to come in then from Mount Panorama. So as per usual, we'll have a warm-up session for the drivers who have made it into the field for the main race. Because it was such a huge field of cars for this week, I believe, Jay, that we had to split the session up into 3 separate qualifying groups.
It was actually 4 qualifying groups and 3 separate races. That's how many drivers we got tonight. So incredible field. Great to see so much support for Mount Panorama, and it's going to be a very, very fun race. Looking forward to seeing how it goes. But this man on screen here, the number 92 car, that familiar purple and orange, it's going to be very, very tough to beat. But we've seen some interesting things throughout this series before, including black flags just for being too good. We could see another performance black flag come out tonight as well.
Just having a look at some of the other names who are competing in the main race tonight. So Ashley Walsh, who we have seen competing in the Bathurst 12-hour in the past, and of course in the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship, he's in the field, which is great to see. Some of our front-running sim racing drivers, you already talked about Josh Anderson, but Cooper Webster is back this week. So too Blake Purdy. A couple of the drivers have been in really good form in the Just Centered series in recent times. Brenton Hobson, another one who has been a very stout performer in the Just Centered series. So good, in fact, that if we were to have a championship running for Season 2 of Just Centered, Brenton Hobson would actually be leading the points.
He'd be disappointed that there's no championship in it now that we've told him that. So, and Hobbo, very, very familiar name to those in sim racing, does have a very, very big following out there on YouTube. Hobbo88 is streaming on Twitch as well. So, good shout out to all the viewers on Hobbo's channel, Hobbo's channel even. Very, very well known name within the sim racing community. So, he always well loved is Brenton Hobson, but a few of the other names as well that are ones to look out for. Lewis Paulo Gallon, we saw him the last time we raced in these cars at Okayama. He was very, very quick, so he'll be tough to beat. This is his car. He will openly admit this is the only car he can drive well, so I disagree with that comment, but he will say this is the only car he does well. So Lewis Paulo Gallon, one to watch in this race tonight. And Gary Hamilton as well in the 111 car. He will be one to watch as well there. My little hidden gems for this race. There'll be 2 very, very quick drivers.
One driver who impressed us last week at Spa in the Radical was Joseph DeJesus. We saw that he put in some brilliant slipstreaming overtaking manoeuvres on the back straight, the Kemmel Straight, as it's known at Spa. And once again, he's qualified pretty well tonight on the mountain. So watch out for Joseph DeJesus the 4th. Let's see if, just like last week, the C's part for DeJesus.
And talking about quick qualifying as well, we were impressed by the qualifying times in the session that we were watching. So we were watching the likes of Rougier and McLaughlin. They were doing times quicker than the real life record at Mount Panorama, just under the 2-minute 1 bracket, into the 2-minute bracket. And even better than that, Josh Rogers, 2-minute flat was his start time.
So the official lap record for GT3 cars at Mount Panorama in terms of the 12-hour 201.2, which was set by Shane Van Gisbergen in qualifying in a McLaren in 2016. The fastest time that we've seen for a GT3 car around the mountain is actually 1 minute 59, and that was set by Christopher Mees in an Audi R8. But of course, that had all of the balance of performance restrictions removed from it. So
doesn't count, does it?
It wouldn't. Correct. It's not. It wouldn't have been compliant had it been racing in the Bathurst 12-hour.
It would have been stripped of all of its glory if that had have happened in the real event. And Zach Bates, another one to watch tonight too. He was very, very quick in qualifying as well. So we've probably got 15 to 20 contenders in tonight's race. That's how competitive a field it is. Probably the most competitive field in regards to one-lap pace that we've seen throughout the entirety of the series. It really opens up the field quite a lot, and the fact that we've had so many drivers attempt to make the grid tonight just shows how competitive this is. And of course the rivals that have come from nothing are back in together, and I've just looked at the qualifying times. They're not too far apart, that being Mitchell McLeod and Steve Owen, so it'll be interesting to see how those two go again.
We've seen some big incidents between those two this season, haven't we? Particularly at Silverstone a bit earlier on in the season, where there was a big shunt which left Mitchell McLeod having a pretty major sense of humour failure.
He did that night, but I think he got it back the next week when he made his paint for the week as well. So interesting that Mitch hasn't done a silly funny paint after 3 weeks in a row of funny paints. He's left it for someone else to try and win, and we'll try and go through some of the paints, especially when we're under safety car. Of course, the Just Painted award's still up for grabs at the end of the season. There's a few really good contenders tonight, I'll tell you now.
So just to explain the Just Painted award, each week the livery that gets the most likes on Facebook in the Just Send It Facebook page wins that week, and the winners from each week will go into the grand final, which will be held at the end of the season, and the winner of the grand final picks up a cool bit of sim racing gear thanks to our official sim racing equipment partner, SimWorks Race Simulators. So lots of cars back in the pits as the checkered flag comes out to complete the warm-up session for Week 8, Season 2 of Just Send It. Let's check out your grid positions. Josh Rogers will start on pole position ahead of Lewis, Paul O'Gowan, Jackson Suzlin, Harlow and Cooper Webster occupy your second row of the grid. Grid position number 5 is where we find our reigning Virgin Australia Supercars champion Scott McLaughlin. And then it's Zach Bates in position 6. His Formula Ford rival, Cody Bircher, in 7th position. Trent Thomas out of 8th. Wayne Burke, who's been a race winner in Just Send It this season, in 9th position. And Brad Ryan completing the top 10.
Good position for Brad Ryan, of course, works with Dale Wood. So Joseph DeJesus in 11th position with Dave Trevathan in 12th. Bailey Sweeney and Thomas McMillan on the 7th row with Steve Owen and Mitchell McLeod. I said they were close. I didn't realise they were on the same row. They're 15th and 16th. That'll be fun to watch. Phil Letchford and Gary Hamilton. Gary Hamilton, one of my picks for this race to watch out for, with Brenton Hobson and Blake Neck on row 10.
Brenton Hobson qualifying a bit further back than where we've seen him recently. Jack Whittis out of 21st. Brad Newman 22nd. Justin Rougier, another driver a bit out of position there, back in 23rd spot. And then it's Ben Snell in 24th. Bradley Sanders in 25th. Robert Crysdale 26th. Back to Josh Haynes, Job Stewart, Matt Allison and Murray Walpole out of position 30.
We'll have the rest of them come up on screen because the drivers are now starting to form up and get the green flag. A few drivers back in the field, a little bit further back than we would expect. Simon Feigl will probably be hoping to be a bit further up, Blake Purdy as well, but we're about ready to go. Watch for Josh Anderson come through the field as well. Pace car is in. 52 cars about to get the green flag at Bathurst.
52 cars. It is a mammoth field at Mount Panorama. The 12-hour will get underway on Sunday, but on this Tuesday evening, here at the mountain. It's time for the Mercedes AMG GT3s to just send it. Green flag waves, away we go. Beautiful start from Josh Rogers. He has absolutely nailed it off the line. He will lead them up mountain straight for the first time. We look to the back of the shot to see if the field's managed to make it safely through Hill Corner. It looks like everybody's been fairly well behaved so far. Hold your breath as they head up mountain straight though, because we know that into Griffin's Bend, and especially on the run up to the cutting, that is the danger zone. If there's going to be incidents on this opening lap, it's the next couple of corners where drama has the potential to unfold.
A few drivers actually trying to make it too wide going up the mountain, but that's scary to do if all fold into line. This is Bailey Sweeney in the number 38 car with Joseph DeJesus right beside him. There's been a little bit of a change at the front of the field as well as drivers have shuffled out. Jackson Susan Harlow into second. But field fairly clean the whole way through, which is good to see. McMillan a little bit slow back in the field, and it looks like Steve Owen has got the jump on Mitchell McLeod, so that'll make it interesting to watch as well.
Joseph DeJesus left the door wide open there at the cutting, and I thought that Bailey Sweeney was going to get up the inside. Wasn't quite able to do so. We saw a car there just running very, very wide over the skyline as well. We're right on board with Scott McLaughlin, and a bit of drama heading down into the dipper, with one of the Mercedes facing the wrong way, another one a bit further up the hill. That's Josh Haynes at the S's there, rejoining the circuit. But surprisingly, it looks like, oh no, we've got more dramas here. That's Glenn Wood involved in that. I was about to say that it seemed like, surprisingly, we'd managed to not get too many cars involved in that incident, but unfortunately, I spoke a bit too soon. Steve Cortis has been involved in a collision. A couple of the Hype Projects cars have raced slow, and Ben McMillan both involved in that contretemps as well.
Luckily that no one else was involved in their incident this time. Lewis Polo Gallon is under pressure here. Geez, I'm doing a good job of getting people's names right tonight. Gallon has Webster right under his rear wing, but have a look at who's right behind there. That 17 car. Guess who that is? That is Scott McLaughlin right there, sitting there happily now. One thing that we've talked about is they do need to make a pit stop. This is a great opportunity for some of these drivers to save some fuel, but have a look at the gap that Josh Rogers has already got. As in the background, that's Blake Neck facing the wrong way. He was deciding to head on to Bathurst to maybe go and get some firewood or drive up to the top of the mountain the wrong way around. It's going to be a tough ask to come back from that far back in the field. But this front pack looks very, very racy and very competitive.
1.5 seconds the lead for Josh Rogers after lap one. Lewis Paul O'Gallon doing a good job in second position. As we mentioned, he's had good results in these cars before, and he is, I suppose you would say, best of the rest at the moment, holding down second behind Josh Rogers. But we've actually had a change in position. Jackson Suzlin Harlow has made the move through on Lewis Paul O'Gallon. It's Suzlin Harlow who now runs in second spot.
And that's happened on lap one as well, so obviously while they were filing out coming into turn one. But the rest of this lead group, the front 12, have got a pretty big margin. McLeod has just been shuffled in behind Thomas McMillan. Now Joseph DeJesus is trying to take advantage. Huge damage to the front of McLeod's car. So he's going to struggle to turn that car here at Forest Elbow. He's going to get past, no doubt, down Conrad Straight.
You can see the understeer there for Mitchell McLeod on the exit of Forest Elbow. And look at the straight line speed that he's losing. Joseph DeJesus pulls out of the slipstream and just cruises on past. And following through there will be Gary Hamilton as well. And off the road, we've got one of the cars out braking itself at the chase there. Was that Zach Bates there?
That was Lewis Paul O'Gallon.
Oh, wow.
And there's contact. Oh, no.
Lewis Paul O'Gallon locks the rear brakes there as he negotiated his way around Murray's Corner, and he's got into the side of Jackson Suzlin Harlow. So the cars that were battling over positions 2 and 3, it's all started at the chase. So Paul O'Gallon tried to go down the inside of Suzlin Harlow to recapture second position, but out-braked himself, got wide, got onto the dirty side of the road. Cooper Webster thought about going 3 wide, but thought better of it. Wow, really, really lucky there, Cooper Webster, not to get caught up in that accident as well. But it's taken out both Suzlin Harlow and Paul O'Gallon.
Now this has opened the door for Scotty McLaughlin to potentially get a position 2. He's tucked right under the rear wing of Cooper Webster. Of course, McLaughlin raced in the iRacing Daytona 24 with Cooper Webster's team, not with Webster himself. He drove with Jared Filsell in that car for the Evolution Racing team that was in the BMW in that event. So he is very well versed in understanding how that car ahead will be behaving with Cooper Webster at the wheel. So we've got Gary Hamilton. I've put the knocker on a couple of people in this race because I've said that they're ones to watch. Well, Gary Hamilton's now one to watch for the wrong reasons because he's facing the wrong way going up the mountain.
It's just on the run up towards Reid Park there where Gary Hamilton's come to grief and he's copped a tag from another competitor.
Glenn Wood. Oh, he's actually ended up on his side there.
Glenn Wood's fallen back to 46th position as well. And it's been, as mentioned, fairly clean so far, but there's still some drivers who've made some really good ground in the opening stages of this race. Simon Feigl has come up 21 spots in the first few laps to be sitting in 14th position.
And he's not far, well, a little bit back. You can see him just there in his own little bit of road at the moment. As Brad Newman, Robert Crisdale and Phil Litchford all battle at the moment. Now, Brad Newman, saying before about liveries, have a look at that one. We've got SpongeBob back out on track again. The SpongeBob SquarePants livery back out there once more.
A few cars heading pit side, and it looks like that might be for repaired damage more than anything. Although we do see, don't we? Oh, as Job Stewart almost runs up the back of the car in front on the way into the pits. There will be some drivers that will take the opportunity to dive in and get their pit stop out of the way early. As we know from past experience in Just Centre, you want to make sure that you have your pit stop done when the safety car comes out, because if you don't, when you get trapped, you do get disadvantaged.
Yep, running on the American style rules, so NASCAR, IMSA rules, where the pit lane closes when the safety car is called. Those of you that watched the Daytona 24 over the weekend would have seen that happen when the safety car was called. The pit lane closed and made it a little bit more difficult for some of those teams to gather some ground. I'd say Cody Birch is looking strong at the moment. He's looking like he's happy saving fuel underneath that rear wing of McLaughlin, but also not scared to show the nose a little bit as well. So Cody Bircher could be on for a very, very good performance here too.
These drivers from second down to fifth have all got real life racing experience.
Oh, no.
And Zach Bates just glances the wall on the exit of Forest Elbow. But Cooper Webster, front-running driver in the Victorian XL Series, Scott McLaughlin, his results do not need to be...
I've never heard of him.
We know just how good he is in a race car. Cody Bircher and Zach Bates, both competitors in Formula Ford. So all of these drivers have got real life experience. And for the young guns in Formula Ford like Bircher and Bates, and Webster for that matter from XL, it's a bit of a thrill for them going head to head in the virtual world with the driver as well credentialed as Scott McLaughlin.
Nice pass here from Justin Rougier into the chase, or at the chase I should say. It's a classic Bathurst move here. Outbrake your opponent. Get it done.
So that
just
was
held it too.
Yeah, that was Joseph to Jesus who he passed, and I'll tell you what, Rougier did not have a millimetre of road left on the exit of the chase. Had he gone in even a fractional later under brakes, he would have been off the road. Here's the contest for position 6 and 7 between Trent Thomas and Wayne Burke. Wayne Burke, of course, was the winner of the very first race of this season, Just Centre in the Ferrari.
Very, very accomplished driver is Wayne, so races karts as well, so no stranger to the racetrack, no stranger to sim racing as well. Just ahead, you can see Trent Thomas there now with Zach Bates with that damage. He's dropped back to this secondary pack and he is struggling big time as Bates.
So these cars, just like real life GT3 cars, fairly fragile. You don't want to go bashing panels against walls or against other cars because you can easily bend steering components or cause yourself engine damage, which is going to affect your performance. And if you do that, that's when it's going to be time to come into the pits to get that damage repaired.
It's about now that you can start to really come in and fuel up and know that you've got enough to get home. Brad Ryan with a great run out of Forest Elbow might be close enough to get a move done on Wayne Burke. Of course, Brad Ryan, no stranger to the race paddock as well. He used to work for Brad Jones Racing, was actually the fuel rig operator in race days in the Supercar Series. Zach Bates holds on to that position from Trent Thomas, who's very quick at the moment. Brad Ryan looking to make this move too. But here comes Thomas. Around the outside's going to be tough, but he could get it done.
And another car decides that it's going to get out of that battle and dive off into the pits. Currently the best of the cars to have pitted, as Cooper Webster and Wayne Burke both head pit side. Brenton Hobson in position number 26, the highest place of the cars that started pit stop.
Yeah, and he's got Mitchell McLeod right behind him as well. We saw McLeod had damage, so those two have come in and out together, so they'll be in their own little battle. Be interesting to see where they land after Webster and Burke finish their stops. Trent Thomas, though, what a run he's got up Mountain Straight. He's going to try around the outside. This never works, never ever.
And it doesn't work on this occasion because he gets forced wide into the marbles and out over the exit curve on the outside. We have seen in the Bathurst 12 hour, haven't we, in years past, drivers going for the outside manoeuvre into Griffin's Bend. And there's just no grip out there. Once you get off the racing line, you run out into the marbles and you just run out of grip. And that compromises your exit for the run up the hill towards the cutting.
I've seen so many races at Bathurst between real world and sim racing. You can imagine once every 3 weeks we have a race here at Bathurst in all of our broadcast series, and I've never ever once in my entire life seen a move happen there. Now interesting, something's happened to Josh Rogers. He lost 3 seconds on that last lap, and now Scott McLaughlin's tucked in right behind him.
I was going to make the point that because Cooper Webster came into the pits on the previous lap, Scott McLaughlin found himself with a bit of cleared track, and he's used that to his advantage, Scott McLaughlin, while Josh Rogers has just drops back a fraction, and Cody Birch is tagging in onto the back of this battle as well. As down the inside goes Scott McLaughlin, Josh Rogers very early on the brakes into the chase. McLaughlin goes through to take the lead. Rogers trying to fight back, but McLaughlin shuts the door, and Cody Bircher decides that he's had enough of being involved in that battle, and he is headed off into the pits.
Zach Bates, we saw, he and Brad Ryan have had a huge accident at the chase. So Brad Ryan in the pink car, and the black car of Zach Bates. This is going to be a huge accident.
There was another car involved in that battle as well that managed to skip ahead just ahead of those two, but wow, big contact there, and Zach Bates has gone spearing backwards through the gravel trap. Luckily for him, he didn't actually come spearing back onto the racetrack, or there could have been other cars caught up in that accident as well. Here's the battle for the lead. Josh Rogers, now the chaser. Scott McLaughlin, the chasee, has gone through to take the lead of the motor race with just over 27 minutes to go. You've got one of the best real-life racing drivers up against, arguably, the world's best sim racing driver.
Won 3 world championships last year to Josh Rogers. Of course, won the Porsche Esports Super Cup, won the VRS World Endurance Championship on iRacing, also won the Supercars E-Series. And has pretty much won everything there is to win over the last little while. And Scott McLaughlin, well, he has been the most dominant man in Australia and New Zealand motorsport over the last 3 or 4 years. So it's going to be an interesting battle between the real and sim worlds right now. Good run from Rogers.
It'll be interesting to see what these guys do in terms of their pit strategy, though. Do they choose to pit, or do they choose to stay out a bit longer? Because if they don't pit soon and the safety cars come out, they'll leave themselves a bit vulnerable strategically to those who have already taken pit stops, as Josh Rogers bump drafts Scott McLaughlin into the chase, breathes out of the throttle and gets on the brakes just a little bit earlier than the reigning and 2-time Supercars champion Scott McLaughlin in the number 17 car, and they're going to stay out for another lap. Our 2 race leaders go round once again.
That bump drafting, that's how baby Mercedes are made. For those that are wondering how you make a Mercedes, and this is a pass up the inside through the kink at the chase. De Jesus through. Rougier has decided to come into the pits. He's had enough of that. So battle done. Josh Rogers now trying to come back on Scott McLaughlin, bump drafting again.
They're having a really good battle, Justin Rougier and Joseph De Jesus, but they're now separated on pit strategy, of course. And you get the feeling that at the moment, these two are just playing with one another. Rogers, really good exit from Griffin's Bend. Does he dive to the inside? No, thinks better of it. Always a risky move to try and go down the inside of somebody into the cutting with the way that the road narrows up the further you go around the corner. This is high quality, clean racing between these two drivers. Giving each other just enough room, showing each other just enough respect to make sure that they don't fire each other off the racetrack.
They still have raced each other a fair bit on track too in sim racing. It's all about respect for each other too, and understanding that they can give each other just enough room, knowing where the other driver is. There's so much trust in this battle between these two drivers.
Bit of laps traffic coming up for them that they're going to have to negotiate their way around as well. Hopefully that laps car doesn't run any sort of interference. Once again, Josh Rogers a pretty good run out of Forest Elbow, and you will have the advantage of the slipstream. Can you get close enough to tag onto the rear bumper of Scott McLaughlin once again? You can see that the closing speed gets higher and higher and higher as they head into the chase. And it's just as they go around the kink that McLaughlin's a bit later on the brakes. Josh Rogers just loses a couple of car lengths in at the braking zone to that corner.
Are they going to come in? Yes, they are.
Both of them. Yep.
And we're at the point now we can have the pit stop. Now, talking about pit stops, oh, how close was that from Josh Rogers? That was committed. We're talking about Cooper Webster being in that lead pack and potentially could be the big winner out of pit stops. He's actually had to come in and make a second pit stop. So Cooper Webster is now back in 23rd position. Our lead car that has made their pit stop, Cody Bircher. So he was in that lead pack as well. Bircher could be the effective leader after these pit stops are done.
So coming up to 23 minutes and 15 seconds to go. How's our safety car?
Look, no one's really said safety car. Yeah, no one's really said safety car since we talked about it before. And have a look at this. McLaughlin's got a big jump on Bircher, Wayne Burke, and Josh Rogers is effectively fourth now as he drag races Wayne Burke up Mountain Straight. And I don't have to worry about the safety car because someone's beaten me to it. Safety car's been called.
Well, there we go. So the safety car comes out, and when all of this plays out, Scott McLaughlin will be the effective race leader ahead of Cody Bircher, and Josh Rogers got ahead of Wayne Burke just before the safety car was called. I think it was a drag race between those two cars up Mountain Straight, and Josh Rogers just had his nose ahead. But there are a few cars that are still yet to pit. Dave Treveth and Robert Crysdale and Mark Newton, the three cars that had not taken their pit stops when the safety car was deployed.
I want to show a quick replay of this. How's this for commitment? Watch this onboard here from Josh Rogers. Look at how much time he gains in the pit entry here. So watch the cones. Got to be stopped down to 60 kilometers an hour at the cones. Actually jumped ahead of Scott McLaughlin. How's that?
Well, that's something that you wouldn't be allowed to do in real life. Have two cars running side by side down pit lane.
Lucky there's no pit crews out there. Dave Trevathan is the driver that's been called out by the safety car. He leads the field at the moment. Robert Crysdale and Mark Newton as well haven't pitted. Craig Russell, Matthew Kidd and Mitchell Wiley also haven't pitted. Every other car in the field has come down in the pit lane. So good to see that we've had pretty much everyone in. Which means we're going to have a really interesting fight for about 15 minutes left at the end of this race.
We always like the grandstand finishes at Bathurst, don't we? It's sort of a bit of a Bathurst tradition in both the 12-hour and the 1,000 where we get a late safety car deployment to bunch up the field and give us a really exciting sprint to the finish. And Scott McLaughlin, well, he's had to deal with the pressure of safety car restarts at Bathurst in real life on plenty of occasions. Now he gets to see how he deals with it in the sim racing world.
He might not have had too many safety car restarts in the real world, in the sim racing world, because a lot of the racing that he would have done wouldn't have incorporated too many safety cars. I do remember a few races that we used to do back when Scotty was still in the Dunlop series. I think it was still called the... I can't even remember if it was called the Dunlop series when Scotty used to do some fun races with us here on when we were called V8s Online. He actually used to do some commentary with us as well, did Scott McLaughlin. So, yeah, a very, very good friend of the channel here. But he wouldn't have done too many iRacing safety car restarts on a roadside. I know Scotty races the IndyCar almost every day that he's on iRacing. So if he's on iRacing tonight, he'll probably do 2 or 3 IndyCar races after this finishes and stay up all night. So he definitely is an IndyCar fan, definitely knows how to do it on that side. But road course racing, different beast, and something that isn't done a huge amount on iRacing is safety car restarts. So it'll be interesting to see.
That's interesting to hear that Scott McLaughlin's been doing a lot of IndyCar races on iRacing. Do we think there's a bit more to that story?
Look, he has been doing IndyCar races for the last 5 years on iRacing. He doesn't do a huge amount of NASCAR, does do a huge amount of IndyCar races on iRacing. When the rumours were going around that he might go to America to do NASCAR, I instantly said, no deal, that won't happen. He'll go to IndyCar if he goes anywhere else, and lo and behold, he's tested at IndyCar in the last few weeks. So no surprise for me, but no surprise for other members within the iRacing community that he's done that. But a few others were a little bit more shocked, but yeah, a lot of people weren't as shocked as what you might think in the iRacing world, that is, anyway.
Just having a look at the livery on Scott McLaughlin's car, because we say that normally when he runs in Just Send It, he runs the DJR Team Penske or Shell V-Power livery, but tonight he's gone for the Lucky Strike livery, which resembles, remember the British American Racing Formula 1 team from
2002?
Back in the early 2000s when it was Jenson Button and Jacques Villeneuve were the drivers.
Yep. So definitely something similar to that. So we might actually have a quick look through some of the skins that we've had for tonight. We've got a few replica liveries out there, and see Vodafone livery there, the 888 car that's very, very well known. And of course the Altus Esports liveries always look really cool. They've actually got the Race for Relief on their windscreen banner, which was a bit of a fundraiser that they did for the Daytona 24-hour to raise some funds and support for bushfire victims over the past little while. But a few other ones. We saw the SpongeBob livery. We've actually got a couple of SpongeBob liveries out there, but there's one that's out there. I don't know if they've made it into this race, but they're actually running a Duplo, as in the Lego Duplo livery. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I have to say that I've been very impressed with the level of creativity with liveries for this season of Just Send It. The only one that I wasn't so impressed with was that who decided to raid my social media profiles for images and then plastered them all over his race car.
That wouldn't be someone that you know behind the scenes as well, would it? That was
no chance of that.
That was... Look, I've been a victim of that one myself, so yeah, it's not fun when it happens, but it is funny when it happens to someone else. If that was my face, you'd probably find it a lot more funnier.
I'd find it hilarious if it was your face. A few cars diving on into the pits, but interestingly, the top 3 cars on the racetrack, which have stayed out on the circuit, have not chosen to come into the pits under this safety car, so they will be at the head of the queue when the race restarts, and they will be doing their pit stops under green flag conditions, which means that the likes of Scott McLaughlin and Cody Bircher and Josh Rogers are going to have a bit of traffic to encounter when the safety car peels off into pit lane and we get a resumption of this race.
Well, eliminates that thing about McLaughlin not have to worrying about a green flag or safety car restart, because he's not leading the field, so he doesn't have to stress. But he will want to make sure that he gets a big jump on those guys behind him. Want to make sure he reads it right.
Well, if anything, it probably creates a bit more stress, because now he has to try and work his way past those slower cars as quickly as he can, hope that they don't hold him up, while at the same time making sure that he doesn't create overtaking opportunities for Cody Bircher and Josh Rogers, who are both going to be putting pressure on from behind.
Cool to see so many Mercedes AMGs out there on track at Mount Panorama in a race at the same time. It's not often you get to see so many out on track at the same time, so it's good to see the 52 starters. Out of the 52 starters, we've got 42 still out on track, which is an awesome effort considering last week, what did we have? I think we only had 17 finishes last week.
Might have even been less than that. The attrition rate last week was
12 actually, I think, from memory. 12 or 14, yeah.
The attrition rate last week was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, but the driving standards this week have been a lot better than they were last week, which has been good to see. And the field tonight is even bigger than the field that we'll be having for Bathurst 12-hour, where I think we've got 39 starters in total.
Yep, should be very, very good fun. And of course, looking forward to hearing your voice on the tally over the weekend as well.
yeah, thoroughly looking forward to calling all of the support racing action on both Friday and Saturday, including for the Fox Sports coverage on Saturday afternoon, which for those of you who are not heading to the mountain this weekend, you will be able to catch up with all of the action from the Bathurst 12 hour on both Fox Sports and Channel 7 on Sunday, and qualifying the top 10 shootout and the support races will also be shown on Fox Sports on Saturday.
And if you are going, boo. But also reach out to Lockie and try and say hello to him over the weekend, because I know it's always nice to put some faces to names. It's always good to actually say hello to people that you hear, and you know, it's always polite to do it.
That's if you can catch me. I'll be,
yeah, you'll be
if
off.
I'm not behind the microphone, I'll be dashing madly backwards and forwards between the commentary box, the support category paddock, and the pit garages of the couple of teams in the 12 hour that I'm doing PR for this weekend.
We'll be able to, you know, maybe buy him a drink or something, because he run off his feet. Here we go, we're about ready to get underway again though. The front 4 cars are all out of sequence. 3 of those cars are still on the lead lap, yet to pit. And we have also in there Gary Hamilton, who is a lap down. Will technically get his lap back, because the pace he's got, he should get past those 2 cars ahead. And then the 5th car in the line is Scott McLaughlin, effective race leader. 13 minutes on the clock. What are we going to have? 7 laps of racing. This is going to be cool to watch.
This will be good. This will be exciting. This will be on for young and old as the safety car peels into pit lane. One of the cars heading down pit lane and following the safety car into the lane. Back underway. A bit of a check-up there from Scott McLaughlin. He was on the brakes heading into Murray's corner. That caught out Cody Bircher and Josh Rogers behind. We are back underway. It is Dave Trevethan who leads the field across the line to get us back underway for Week 8, Season 2 of Just Send It here at Mount Panorama.
A very, very good restart. Looks like fairly clean throughout the field. A little bit of contact back in the field. A couple of drivers have taken this opportunity to jump in the pits. But McLaughlin now trying to get this run up Mountain Straight to get the effective, or get the lead back. And Josh Rogers is a little bit further back than he would like after that contact. You can see a little bit of a damage mark on the rear of Cody Birch's rear bumper. A tiny little bit of contact there with the checkup, but it didn't break the rest of the field, interestingly.
Good heads-up driving from one of the back markers heading up Mountain Straight as well, just to recognise that the race leaders were right behind him and got off the throttle and made sure that they had clear passage through. Here we are on board with Brenton Hobson, who is up to 7th position after starting back in 19th, so he's made good progress.
He's about to get 6th, isn't he? He's about to do it.
Brenton Hobson, for those of you who are not familiar with his claim to fame, he is infamous for repeatedly finishing races in 6th position. We've had a bit of a contretemps up the top of the mountain at Reid Park with one of the cars ending up in the fence. And one of the cars ending up upside down as well. That's Trent Harrison, one of our series organisers, and just about getting going again without tangling up. Here's a replay from a bit further back. And that was a big shunt that claimed a few other cars as well, just on the run down into Reid Park. Because you are so committed through that part of the circuit, not a lot of space to go anywhere or do anything or take evasive action if somebody gets it wrong in front of you.
And that's just what's happened there. That 72 car, which is Matt Allison, just ran a little bit wide up through Reid Park and made a little bit of contact. Wasn't a huge amount, but it was enough to cause that huge kerfuffle as we see a little bit of a move down the front straight. McLaughlin through on Crisdale. Rogers is through on Bircher and now through on Crisdale as well. Now Brad Ryan trying to get that position away from Cody Bircher too.
So Josh Rogers, as we expected, working his way back to the front. Dave Trevethan's done a good job since this race start. He's put his head down and made use of the clear track at his disposal to pull a margin over the cars ahead of him. And we've had an incident on the run down towards Murray's corner. That's Job Stewart, and Wayne Burke's been involved somewhere there as well, coming out of Murray's corner. And all of those cars are going to be headed back to the pits for repairs.
Yeah, Simon Black was involved in that one too, so he's managed to get going again. So Dave Trevathan now still leading this race. Now, while we say that there is a pit stop, we say that there should be a pit stop because the amount of fuel that you have in the car should mean that you won't make it home on fuel. But if Trevathan's done a really, really good job fuel saving, he might be okay on fuel, but it's unlikely he's going to be able to hold on because these guys behind look quick, they look committed, and look determined. So it's going to be a very, very tough ask for him to hold on as it is. The fact that he will probably have to save fuel to make it home will make it nigh on impossible. But stranger things have happened.
Josh Rogers has caught right up to the back of Scott McLaughlin. So the battle that these two drivers were having before they came in for the pit stop and before the safety car came out is reinvigorated, and Rogers closing in, using the slipstream. Does he go for the move down the inside into the chase? No, thinks better of it. Tucks back in behind McLaughlin, who uses a fair bit of the curb there, the turning point to the chase. Rogers feinting to the inside as they head down into Murray's corner. But again, not quite close enough, and you can see that the leaders are now starting to rail in. Dave Trevathan, McLaughlin a little bit sideways out of Murray's corner. Rogers stays in behind the Supercars champion for the time being. Quality racing between drivers who are at the very top of their game in the respective sim racing and real life racing worlds.
The two Supercars champions for 2019, the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship and the Supercars E-Series champion. So two very, very accomplished drivers going at it. 8 minutes to go, so 5 laps of racing left. I think this could come down to an absolute nail-biter between these two. And I just looked as well. These two are actually talking to each other while this race is going on. They're actually in communication with each other too. That probably helps the trust that they've got between each other that we were talking about before as well.
I reckon what they'll probably do is work together to make sure that they pull away from the rest of the field, and then when it gets to a couple of laps to go, it'll be gloves off, they'll race hard, and it'll be a case of may the best man win.
I think
So
you're right.
Dave Trevathan continues to lead. He's now been caught by McLaughlin and Rogers. As Rogers gets really sideways heading out of the dippy, you can see the rear end of his car squirming around. Trevathan, how long can he hold these two out? Remember, we think that he's got a pit stop that he's going to need to do, so any resistance that he can offer up is probably going to be futile in the bigger context of this race. And he's got a couple of hungry drivers now breathing down his neck. McLaughlin right in the toe. Here he comes, pulls out to the inside, heading into the kink. Trevathan, though, is still going to be on the inside for the next left-hander, but look at the confidence for Scott McLaughlin under brakes. Sweeps around the outside, Rogers follows him through. Trevathan gets elbowed wide out into the gravel trap. Is going to lose a heap of time, and he decides that it's now time to come into the pits and get his stop out of the way.
I was about to alert you that Brenton Hobson had made it into 6th position. He's now got into 5th though, so it's gone. But McLaughlin leads. There'll be 4 laps to go, 7 minutes on the clock. At a 2-minute lap, means we've got 4 laps left. This is going to be an interesting fight. They may have broken the draft to that battle behind as well.
McLaughlin having to start driving defensively. We saw that he moved to the inside of the circuit on the run into Hill Corner. Once again, he covers the inside line as they head up the hill into Griffin's Bend. We know that it's virtually impossible to overtake around the outside there, but Josh Rogers giving it a big crack. You look to the switchback. He's on the outside of McLaughlin heading into the cutting. Switches back to the inside, up the inside into the cutting. They are side by side on the exit, and Josh Rogers makes the move through into the lead in a corner where that sort of manoeuvre is normally nigh on impossible. Josh Rogers, take a bow. It's end of the evening right there.
Yep, that's a fantastic move. He set it up perfectly as well. We need another look at that because that was an incredible pass. Just set it up perfectly because that just went absolutely flawless for him. Just was able to cut it back here. And almost gave McLaughlin that false sense of security there, thinking that he was safe, didn't he? It's just almost teased him. And look, literally a car width, and just gets it in there. McLaughlin's got nowhere to go but to run it wide. And I'm sure McLaughlin's had nightmares about being that wide going through the cutting before.
Well, you look back to the 2014 race where he got elbowed wide by Shane Van Gisbergen at exactly that position on the racetrack. That was back when he was racing in the Volvo. Broke the suspension that day and put him out of any chance of a competitive result in that particular race. On this occasion, though, he gave Josh Rogers just enough room to get through. He made sure that he kept it out of the wall, and he was able to hold on to second position. A brilliant move for for Josh Rogers, but equally full credit to Scott McLaughlin for giving Rogers just enough room to make the manoeuvre cleanly.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's just a very, very classy driving from both drivers. It's not over though as well, because McLaughlin still in the draft of Josh Rogers. We know that McLaughlin's pace, looking at lap times over the last little while, fastest laps as well, not too dissimilar. Rogers is by far the fastest driver out there, but second fastest is pretty much Scott McLaughlin. So this isn't over between these two. And have a look at this late lunge back. Wow, what a move.
McLaughlin, does he get the job done? Rogers is going to try and hang tough around the outside, and Rogers will have the preferred inside line. They're side by side again heading into the cutting, and Rogers just holds on to it, but McLaughlin's not going to give this up without a fight. Now McLaughlin looking up the inside into Reid Park, another section on the track where you can't see overtaking manoeuvres happen. Cody Bircher becoming part of this equation as well. Side by side once again, McLaughlin a huge slide and in the wall. Something had to give there. The risks that those drivers were taking, the extraordinary manoeuvres that they were making in parts of the track where normally you just can't get away with that stuff. Eventually, something was going to have to give. And unfortunately for Scott McLaughlin, the number 17 car has ended up in the wall at Reid Park.
Yep, that's race done, unfortunately, for McLaughlin. Unfortunate that that's happened, but that was a really good fight. And just probably a tiny little bit too aggressive at that spot, but it was great to watch. And if it had paid off, it would have been absolutely brilliant. But yeah, unfortunate that McLaughlin is back in the pits, and that will likely be day done. It's still on for a podium spot here. This is Brenton Hobson and Brad Ryan side by side for third position.
Remember, Brenton Hobson started this race 19th on the grid, so he's done a really, really good job to get himself into a position where he's fighting for a podium spot. Ryan on the defensive into Murray's corner. Hobson round the outside. Will get better drive out of the corner. Ryan wants to try and make a fight out of it on the inside. But I reckon Hobson might just get his nose in front here. Ryan, though, back down the inside into Hill Corner, and they'll continue their drag race up Mountain Straight. This is a cracking contest for the final spot on the podium.
How's that from Hobson holding it around the outside and maintaining the pace around the outside at Hill Corner? I don't think you see that too often either.
He's kept the momentum up, heading up Mountain Straight, Brenton Hobson, and he will be through into third position.
Great job from Hobbo to get that third spot, as we've got another incident back in the pack. Matthew Kidd around. There's another car there. That's Mitchell McLeod reversing back onto the track. We'll see what's happened to Mitch. Looks like he has had to come back into the pits for a second time as well. Oh no, he's just got it cleaned up there. Unfortunate. Kidd's hit the grass, the braking zone into Hell Corner, and hit the inside wall. I don't think I've ever seen anyone hit the inside wall there.
You have to fail a bit for Mitchell McLeod, because that's not the first occasion in this season of Just Send where he has been the completely innocent victim in somebody else's accident.
100%. He's had more bad luck than good luck in this series. And another driver that hasn't had too much good luck in this race is Zach Bates, but he's done a good job to get it back as high as he has. Did pit a little bit out of sequence from everyone else. The lap earlier was, as we said too, Cooper Webster's been in the pits twice, but Bates had to come in earlier than expected just to get damage fixed. He's gone back out there with the spare car. The drivers are allowed unlimited spare cars, so they can pit every lap for a fresh car if they wanted to. But Zach Bates now might be able to get this move done.
Considering that he's had 2 pit stops, Cooper Webster's done a good job to get back up into the top 5, so that's been another really good drive from one of the formed drivers in the Just Send It series since its inception. Out in front, Josh Rogers continues to lead the race by 1.3 seconds ahead of Cody Bircher. Such shame, isn't it, that Scott McLaughlin had to retire, because it was shaping up to be a cracking battle between him and Josh Rogers all the way to the checkered flag, and this, I believe, Joe, will be the final lap.
Yep, we are within that final minute, so they would have received the white flag when they drove past the finishing tower, as McLeod gets a spot back. That's Josh Haynes that he's just fed off the road a little bit there. There'll be a little bit of red mist on McLeod's helmet at the moment, virtual helmet, as Zach Bates actually gets that move done. How's that for a move? He was so far back coming into Hell Corner. I flicked away from that because I didn't think there was a chance he'd get through. He's made the move. These two no strangers to each other as well, as you were saying before.
So Cooper Webster will want to get that spot back. One of the top XL racers up against young Formula Ford competitor who had some good results in the State Formula Ford Championship in New South Wales throughout 2019. And this battle will continue all the way down the hill into Forest Elbow, and I really think that for Cooper Webster, if he wants to get the spot back, he needs to set up with a good exit out of the elbow, get in the slipstream of Zach Bates, try and get that bit of extra straight line speed down Conrod, and set himself up for a late braking manoeuvre into the chase. Bates is aware of it. You can see the Mercedes just jinking to the right a little bit to try and break the slipstream, but Webster in the tow, leaves it a little bit late to pull out. I think he wants to try and be on the inside, but Bates will be aware of that. Covers to the inside. Webster, the big late braking manoeuvre to the outside. Not going to be close enough to get it done. Boy, they were right on the braking limit there. But Josh Rogers, he had to work for it tonight, but in the end, his class reigns supreme, and he gets his second win in a row in Season 2 of Just Send It. He becomes the first double race winner for the season. Cody Bircher finishes up in second position, and Brenton Hobson from 19th on the grid scores a podium finish.
Great job from Hobson from so far back to get a podium, so well done to Hobson, but great drive from Josh Rogers there to get the win. Dave Travathny, we saw leading the race earlier with Craig Russell, couldn't quite get the run out of the final corner to get the last change of position, but it looks like everyone is done in regards to fighting for finishes. But Brenton Hobson would probably have to be driver of the day from how far back in the field he started to get up to third and have really good pace. He was actually one of the, second or third fastest car out on track there as well. He did it on actual pace, so his qualifying wasn't any good in comparison to how quick he actually was, but that was really good.
However, he's not going to pick up the Best Postman award. That will go to Ben McMillan, who has come up to 14th position on the grid from 48th. 14th, finished 14th, having started 48th on the grid.
That's a pretty decent rise up through the field. Josh Rogers didn't go anywhere either. He just started first, finishes first once again. He is a freak, but just seeing why he's won 3 World Championships in a year on iRacing and looking to go back-to-back in 2 of those in 2020. Cody Bircher also in great form at the moment too. Brenton Hobson, probably one of the other informed drivers in this series as well. So top 3, very, very classy field. Brad Ryan in 4th. Zach Bates, good job to get back to 5th. Cooper Webster in 6th. Jackson Susan Harlow, a driver that we didn't see anything of other than at the start, got back to 7th position. Good from him. Brad Newman, as we saw with that contender for livery of the night, finishes 8th. Blake Neck in 9th. And Cohen Haddard in 10th position.
Well, the mountain delivers once again, doesn't it? Very entertaining racing with the Mercedes around the Bathurst circuit. Plenty of overtaking, a cracking battle between Josh Rogers and Scott McLaughlin. That was definitely the highlight of the race for me. Running down through the rest of the finishes, Glenn Serra 11th, Justin Ruggier in 12th spot, Matthew P. Clowett in 13th, ahead of Ben McMillan, Craig Russell, back to Dave Trevethan, Robert Crysdale, Josh Haynes, Mark Newton, and Matthew Kidd rounding out the top 20.
Yeah, for me, that battle that that those guys were having there in those last few laps was incredible, and that's again 2 races in a row that we've run here in Just Send It at Bathurst that have put on absolute grandstand finishes. Of course, didn't quite get the end of it on that last lap, but those last few laps were some of the best racing that we've seen throughout this series, and I think we could run Bathurst a little bit more than just once a season. Let's put in a vote and say we'll have it a couple of times a season, I think.
But then the novelty will wear off. I reckon keep it to being once a season and keep it being special, just like the real thing.
That's a very good point. You do make a good point there. So, yeah, maybe we'll only run it once a season. I don't know. It's hard to find the right balance because it does offer such great racing. Here in Phillip Island have turned on great shows throughout the Just Send It history. And next week, as we said, we don't know where we'll be. We know that we could be one of 8 or 9 circuits, but we don't know which one. And we don't know what car we're going to have. And I'm looking forward to seeing what combination we have next week. It should be very, very fun, whatever it may be. If the racing's half as good as tonight, we're going to have another great show.
Running through the rest of the finishes, we actually, in the end, and there were quite a few cars that experienced drama of one sort or another. We didn't have any monumental pile-ups. We did have a few incidents, though, particularly that one just after the safety car race start up the top of the mountain at Reid Park, which did claim quite a few victims.
Yeah, it was a fairly monumental one there. That was the one involving Trent Harrison and Trent Thomas and a few others that were in that little gaggle of cars there too. Matt Allison was involved as well, which is unfortunate to see. Hearing that Ash Walsh did try and take the grid, but his brand new rig that he got set up with over the weekend, he's already having issues with his wheels. So unfortunate for him to have issues before he's really even got out of the gates. Hopefully he gets that sorted and we can see him out on track next week for Just Send It.
Fingers crossed. So from the virtual Mount Panorama, we head to the real life Mount Panorama for the 12-hour this weekend. But of course, Just Send It will be back for week 9, season 2 next Tuesday evening. Thanks to everybody for tuning in on the SimSpeed TV network. Thanks to our sponsors, Melbourne Performance Centre, Digital Marketing Tribe, SimWorks Simulators, Erebus Motorsport, and JAC Technologies. On behalf of Jay Kennedy, I'm Lachlan Mansell. See you next time. Bye for now.
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
I don't know what happened on there. I just plucked her in first, gave some gen. Oh, fuck yeah.
You are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a car that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
We go green for 40 minutes of racing around Monza.
Billy, look at defense by Ethan Grigol, just getting so punchy.
And a brilliant getaway already from Josh Rogers.
2 pro drivers going at it here between Dylan O'Keefe and Nick Foster.
Stanaway's demoted to 3rd. Webster wins week 9 here at Sebring through the final corner. That's a huge slide for Cooper Murray. Just trying to barge their way through, and that's whoa, that's a merry-go-round for Nick Percat. Campbell, Paolo Gaon, and Ferraris behind. Glenn Wood actually was flipped into the barriers. One of the most exciting pirouettes I've seen in quite some time. That's Van Gisbergen, and his day is done. Tell you what, if Calvin wins this race, I wouldn't be surprised. He's all 4 wheels up the racetrack. Wow, but he just saves it on the apex.
Contact almost made, side by side through the elevation change, and Scotty McLaughlin had the move done, but he got over the crest. And
what a send!
Dylan O'Keefe sends it up the inside, can't do anything with it.
Shane Van Gisbergen already on the attack.
It begins and sending has begun.
And it's going to be a drag race to the line. Tuesday night is rapidly becoming a night to lick the stamp. Send it.
Oh, I forgot I was helping commentate here. I was just sitting back in my jocks and